Something really great that you can do now with AI is you can actually input a situation and ask AI to develop an imaginary conversation between various authors. I've often, I'm not going to say fantasized, but imagined what it'd be like to have all the authors from my book collection. This is just a one-wee section, but if you could bring them together for a dinner party, what a great evening it would be, and what we would talk about and all the rest. Well, now you can do that. You know, and you could say, well, yeah, but it's not real, but it's pretty damn close. I have to say that knowing the so I for example, I did a situation with AI. I took Karl Barth, Paul Nitter, and eventually I brought in Gregory Palamas into the mix on a hospital chaplain ward, on a hospital ward. And basically, we explored the thinking. How were we to approach this job? How were we to bring light and love and salvation, peace, and all that good stuff to the hospital ward? We have Paul Nitter, the Catholic pluralist, who's like a double belonger between Christianity and Buddhism. We have we have Karl Barth, the great yes of God, who's a kind of a hopeful Christian universalist, but really still owes so much to the Reformed tradition and Calvinism, although he's rejected the limited atonement ideas, etc., but still very Christocentric. The conversations that were between him and Nitter were phenomenal. And then I brought in Palamas into the mix, and it was just phenomenal. It was great fun indeed. And then what I did at the end is I said, right, okay, I asked then AI, I said, well, who else would you recommend that we bring into this conversation? And it mentioned Simone Weil, Thomas Merton, and Raymond Panikar as three that would kind of enrich the contours and the shape of where the dialogue was going. And of course, you can input at any time and say, well, I think this, I think that, I agree with Palamas here, but I'd now like to ask Karl Barth this or that. Absolute fun, absolute fun. And so enlightening, I think, for a lot of people who can't afford to buy the complete set of Shobogenzo or the complete set of Aquinas or the 13 volumes of Karl Barth, which I don't possess. Well, you don't need to, essentially, because the AI simply searches through through data engines, search engines, and within nanoseconds has constructed this dialogue. And as I say, myself being a theologian, I can say, yeah, it's pretty damn useful to help you to organize your own thinking between these archetypal giants. Of course, we have to do our own thinking on things. And of course, it's not wise to be ruled by AI's reconstruction of other men. Just as nonsensical and even more nonsensical to follow and idolize actual men, thinkers, but they are incredibly useful to help us to make decisions, as Dietrich Bonhoeffer spoke about in how we come to a moral decision about things. He said, you wrestle with the scriptures and you ask elders of the faith, but then ultimately you pray and you act and you hope that God will forgive you if you fall short. Hopefully that's useful. God bless.